How many Americans retire at 62? More than you'd think. According to the Social Security Administration, roughly 1 in 4 new claimants, about 23% of men and 25% of women, file for Social Security at the earliest possible age 62. That still makes it one of the most common claiming ages in America. And for a lot of people watching this, that probably sounds completely reasonable. You've worked hard your whole life. You're tired. You've earned it. You're ready to stop. But once you see the actual math behind that decision, it will all make sense why age 62 might be the most expensive number in your entire retirement plan. So let's be specific about what we're actually talking about here. Age 62 is the earliest age most Americans can claim Social Security retirement benefits. Your full retirement age, the age at which you receive your complete, unreduced benefit, is 67 for anyone born in 1960 or later. The Social Security Administration calls that your FRA, your full retirement age. And age 70 is where the math stops rewarding you for waiting. There are no additional increases beyond 70. Everything you decide in that window between 62 and 70 has permanent, lifelong consequences for your monthly income. Not temporary, not adjustable, permanent. Here's the number most people don't fully understand before they pull the trigger. Claiming Social Security at 62 instead of 67 results in a permanent 30% reduction in your monthly benefit. That's not my number. That comes directly from the Social Security Administration. If your full benefit at 67 would have been $2,000 a month, you now get $1,400 every single month for the rest of your life. That reduction never corrects itself when you turn 67. It doesn't reset. It doesn't recover. The cost of living adjustments you receive in future years are calculated on that smaller baseline forever. So inflation compounds against you for the life of the benefit. But here's the thing. Most people know there's some kind of reduction. What most people don't actually sit down and calculate is the total lifetime gap that reduction creates over a 20-year retirement. The Center for Retirement Research at Boston College has found that the break-even age for delaying Social Security, the point at which waiting finally starts paying off more than claiming early, is approximately 80 years old. Now look at what SSA actuarial tables actually say about life expectancy at 62. The average 62-year-old man can expect to live another 20 years. The average 62-year-old woman, another 23 years. That means a significant majority of people who retire at 62 will live past the break-even age. They will spend the final decade or more of their lives locked into a permanently reduced benefit. The math, for most middle-class households, simply is not in their favor. And this is where things get interesting. Because the Social Security reduction is only the first hit, there are actually 3 major financial forces that converge simultaneously when you retire at 62, and most people only see the first one coming. The second force is what I'd call the Medicare gap. And for a lot of people, this is the real hidden killer. Medicare doesn't begin until age 65. That's not a loophole or a fine print technicality. That's the law. And it means that if you retire at 62, you face 3 full years without employer-sponsored health insurance and without Medicare. So what do? You go to the ACA marketplace, the Affordable Care Act exchanges. And according to Kaiser Family Foundation data, the average monthly benchmark premium for a 62-year-old on an ACA marketplace plan is roughly £1,100 to $1,200 per month in 2026. That's before co-pays, before deductibles, before any out-of-pocket costs when you actually use the coverage. Over 3 years, even at the conservative end of that range, your household is looking at $40,000 or more in health insurance premiums alone. That is $40,000 most people never factor into their retirement budget when they're sitting at the kitchen table making this decision. The Employee Benefit Research Institute found that nearly 46% of people who retired in 2025 did so earlier than they had originally planned, and health issues were among the most commonly cited reasons for that early exit. which means the very people most likely to retire at 62 are often the ones who will use that expensive insurance coverage the most. So, you've taken a 30% permanent benefit cut. You're now spending $1,100 a month on health insurance. And you're drawing down your retirement savings years before your plan was built to handle. Which brings us to the third force. And this one gets quietly devastating over time. The third hit is what happens to your portfolio. Retiring at 62 instead of 67 means you start drawing down your savings 5 years earlier than intended. 5 full years earlier. Think about what that actually means in practice. The final years before retirement are typically when workers are at peak earnings and making their largest contributions to retirement accounts. They're also the years when a growing portfolio compounds the most aggressively because the balance is at its highest point. You are not just losing 5 years of contributions, you're losing 5 years of compounding on your largest ever balance, while simultaneously drawing money out to replace what Social Security isn't covering yet. Vanguard's research on portfolio sustainability shows that early, elevated withdrawal rates are one of the primary drivers of long-term portfolio failure. Add that to the permanent Social Security shortfall and the $40,000 in health insurance costs, and the total financial damage of retiring at 62 versus 67 compounds into the hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 20-year retirement. The National Retirement Risk Index, referenced extensively in National Institute on Retirement Security Research, has found that roughly half of American households are already at risk of not being able to maintain their standard of living in retirement, even if they work until age 65. Retiring 3 full years before that makes the math substantially worse for most households. But here's where things change. Retiring at 62 is genuinely the right call for some people. I want to be completely honest with you about that. If your health is poor and your doctor is giving you a realistic picture of a shortened life expectancy, the break-even math changes entirely. Waiting no longer makes financial sense for your situation. If you were pushed out of work by a sudden layoff or a health crisis, and EBRI research tells us that happens to a large share of workers, then you may not have had a meaningful choice. If you have a pension that already covers your baseline expenses, you may not need to maximize Social Security at all. And if you have accumulated enough savings that a 30% reduction doesn't change how your household actually lives day to day, then 62 might be exactly right for your plan. This video is not about telling you that you made a mistake. It's about making sure people who haven't made this decision yet see the real numbers first. What changes the outcome is the practical reframe. You don't have to commit to waiting all the way to 67 or 70 to meaningfully improve your retirement picture. Even waiting until 65 closes the Medicare gap entirely, and that single decision alone saves your household $40,000 or more in premiums. Waiting to 64 instead of 62 reduces your permanent Social Security cut from 30% down to 20%. Every year you delay between 62 and 70 adds permanent monthly income for the rest of your life. The math rewards that patience more than almost any other single financial decision you will make in the years leading up to retirement. So here's what I want you to actually take away from this video. The decision of when to claim Social Security is one of the most consequential financial choices your household will ever make. According to NARS research, 79% of Americans believe there is a retirement crisis in this country. What most people haven't connected is that a significant part of that crisis is being driven by decisions that feel completely normal, like retiring at the most popular age in America, but carry a financial cost that quietly compounds for decades. If you are in your 50s right now, you still have real time. Time to log into your SSA account and look at your actual benefit estimates at 62, at 67, and at 70. Time to run the health insurance math for your specific zip code and income. Time to make this decision with your eyes fully open. Here's my question for you in the comments. If you had seen the complete math before retiring, or before you plan to retire, would 62 still be your number?